All right, this is Chapter 6, Section 2. We're going to be talking about the Enlightenment. All right, the Enlightenment is really just new ways of thinking, and it really is a sort of a trickle down from the scientific revolution, which is also a trickle down from the Renaissance and the Reformation. It all involves questioning who has the right to tell you what to do, who has the right to tell you what to paint, who has the right to tell you where the sun is. In the Enlightenment, thinkers try to apply reason and scientific method to laws that shape human action. So they're trying to take this science that they know to be effective and the scientific method and place it on humans. And their idea is maybe we can build a society that's actually founded on the same ideas of the scientific revolution. We're going to start with two prominent English writers that were very important to this movement. And the first is a guy named Thomas Hobbes. Thomas Hobbes witnessed the really horrible things that went down in the English Civil War. And that convinced him that really, deep down inside, people suck. And that if, given the chance, we'll be mean to each other. We'll be evil. We were naturally wicked and selfish. Picture, Lord of the Flies, that if you were left alone without a government, someone strong is going to take advantage of someone weak. And that he said without a government, it would be a war of every man against every man. And eventually we would look to a protector. And, in order to get that person would have absolute power over us. His major book was The Leviathan. And I'll get to why it was called that in a minute. Hobbes in Leviathan wrote that because if left to our own devices, we will, rape, rob, and pillage our neighbors, we will instinctively turn to a strong person to protect us. And eventually, in that arrangement, something he eventually called a social contract, you would agree and willingly give up some of your rights so that you could gain security, order, safety, etc. from this stronger person. The best government, he said, was that of a government which was made of a strong king who can force people to obey. A leviathan, a giant sea monster that has massive power. Without this king, Hobbes says that your life is going to be nasty, brutish, and short. The flip side to Hobbes is John Locke. John Locke has a more positive view of human nature, and he believes that people can reason and learn from their mistakes. Oops, typo. He believes you have the ability to reason out why things happen to you and to change it. So next time, I'll fix the typo. He believes that all people have the rights to life, liberty, and property, and that the job of government is to protect those rights. When government fails to do that, Locke says you have the right to kick that government out. There were some colonists in America who were really listening to him. He wrote several books, but the one that we're going to be looking at, one of the more famous ones, is the Two Treatises of Government. Let's move over to France, because the philosophers in France, first of all, they had to have a much more Frenchy, awesome name, so they are the Philosophes. Philosophes. The height of the Enlightenment comes in France in the mid-1700s. Oh my gosh, typo again. I should use my reason to fix that next time. See, I've learned from my mistakes. These philosophers believed that, like science, reason and observation can be applied to all the aspects of life, including society and social structure. They had 5 main beliefs. The Philosophes. They believed that thinkers can find truth by using reason, that what is natural is good and reasonable, and human actions are shaped by natural laws, that acting according to nature can bring happiness, that by taking a scientific view, people and society can make progress and we can advance to a better life. By using reason, people can gain freedom. 3 French thinkers had great influence on the Enlightenment. The first was Voltaire. Voltaire writes prolifically. He's also a good friend of a lot of monarchs, which is odd considering he criticizes the laws and customs of France. So he's constantly being thrown in jail or kicked out of the country. He writes against intolerance and generally dislikes absolute monarchy. The Baron de Montesquieu made a long study of laws and governments, and he thought that government power should be separated into different branches. So whoever makes the laws should be different than who enforces the laws, and who enforces the laws and who makes the laws should be different than who judges whether the laws are correct or not. And that each of those groups should be able to control the other one just a little bit so that no one gets too powerful. Another guy is Jean-Jacques Rousseau. He wrote strongly in favor of human freedom, and he pushed for a society in which all were equal. The Italian Cesare Beccaria wrote about crime and justice. He said that trials should be fair, punishments should be made to fit the crime. As enlightened as these Enlightenment philosophes and thinkers were, when it came to their own house and their wives at home, well, that's where the Enlightenment ended. They urged equal rights for all men, but ignored the fact that women had virtually no rights. One of the earliest feminist Enlightenment thinkers wrote that if all men are born free, as Enlightenment thinkers were constantly writing, how is it that women are not born free and all women are born slaves? One of the first Enlightenment feminists is Mary Wollstonecraft. She disliked marriage and believed that it really was just subjugation of women. And one of the things that she wrote about was that women absolutely had to have an education, and that if women had an education and were involved in politics, that politics would be a lot less warlike. Okay. She eventually would, after giving birth to her child, marry the father of her child. Now, it's not a big deal today, but back then it was a very big deal. She gave birth to a young lady who would go on to be a famous author herself. You may have heard of her, Mary Wollstonecraft Shelley, but she used to write by Mary W. Shelley, or just Mary Shelley. You know, she wrote this. You've seen it, or some version, or you'll be reading it this year or next. All right, Enlightenment ideas had a strong influence on the American and French revolutions, which came at the end of the 1700s. They had three other major effects, or these were the effects that lead to the revolutions. They helped spread the idea of progress, that the idea that a society isn't supposed to stay the same, it's supposed to move forward. By using reason, people thought it is possible to make society better. These ideas also help make Western society more secular, that is, more worldly, less spiritual, that your religion could be separate from your daily political life or your life as a citizen.
If it's any consolation, you had me convinced.
It's not.
I was thinking, what if we go public, plaster the story all over the internet? It's not like we have our reputation
Finally,
to worry about.
Enlightenment ideas promoted the notion that the individual person was important, had rights, and needed to stand up for themselves and their fellow man. Nicolas Cage will tell you.
Written here about freedom. There's a line that's at the heart of all the others. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and provide new guards for their future security. People don't talk that way anymore.
Beautiful. Huh. No idea what you said.
It means if there's something wrong, those who have the ability to take action have the responsibility to take action. I'm gonna...
He goes on to steal it, but, you know, you can watch the movie. But really, there is a big portion of the Enlightenment that you can use reason to apply it to your social system, your daily life, your government, everything. And that if it is not working, you, the citizen, can rise up and fix it and institute something better. And if all men are born equal, then what makes one person better than another? And the argument would be education. Well, then theoretically, if everyone could be educated, then what separates you from a king? Theoretically, nothing. And that's how we end up with our revolutions.